Child, how did I end up back here? I told y'all in the last video that I was not going back to education. And not only did I go back to education, but I got fired. And we going to talk about it. We're going to talk about everything that happened, why I even went back to education, what happened in my year of education, and of course, why I got terminated. But if you don't know who I am, before we even get started, hello, I'm PJ Eugene. Welcome to my channel. And we discuss pretty much everything here. So please just get comfortable. Grab you a little drink. Grab you something to ingest, if you know what I'm talking about. I made a video about 2 years ago. And I actually made two videos that did very, very well on my channel. And it resonated with a lot of teachers. And to this day, thank God I'm still getting paid for those videos. It's resonating a lot of attention with teachers. And majority of the comments are of teachers just relating to what I'm saying. And mind you, when I made the video, I did not know that I was being I thought my experience was, simply just for me. I had no idea, just simply telling the story and what I was going through, that a lot more thousands of teachers were going through the same thing in our country. So it's crazy. Like, we got to do some work. We got to fix it. We got to fix this education system. But let's just start from there. In March of 2022, I quit my teaching job. I was a fourth grade math and science teacher, and I quit. And if you need a recap of that, you can go watch the video. I'll put it in the link in the description, or I can just give you a little paraphrase of what I said. Basically, a lot of behavior problems, admin not doing what they're supposed to do, documentation and paperwork exceeding what I can do in a day, and also having to teach responsibilities, observations, and the list goes on. But if you want a very specified, detailed rundown of why I quit teaching, not only do I have the video of why teachers are quitting for the teacher shortage, but I also made a video of why I quit teaching personally. And then I also made a follow-up video about like 4 months after I quit teaching, do I regret it? So go watch all those videos to kind of catch up. But we're going to start from right there. So after I left teaching, if you remember from the video, I said that I never, ever, ever have quit a job without knowing where I can go to next. Up until that point, I quit my teaching job and I didn't have anywhere to go. And for 6 months, I was jobless. Not completely. I had little side gigs on the side to help pay my bills and stuff like that. But I was really jobless for 6 months, from March 2022 all the way up until August. So if that's 6 months, that sounds like 6 months, about 5, 6 months, almost, yeah. Because I didn't get the new job until August of late August. But basically, my goal when I had quit teaching the first time was to get a remote job, because I always wanted to work from home. I wanted to X out commuting from my expenses. So I ended up working for University of Michigan Medicine. And it was a dope remote job. It was. I ain't even going to hold you up. It was a dope remote job. And the job description entailed, basically, I was just talking to patients all day. I worked with older patients, and all they wanted was medication refills, and they wanted to get their doctor's appointments for the year. They wanted to send a message to their doctor. They wanted help with getting back to a nurse, or getting back. Like, it was very simple stuff I was doing all day. Not to mention the call flow would die down around midday. So for about an hour or two, maybe, I wasn't even taking phone calls. So it was a real dope work from home job. And I was getting paid fairly well. So I got what I wanted, but it didn't happen until 6 months after. But up and around, I want to say March or maybe April of 23. I got a phone call, or a text rather, I'm sorry, to be specific, from one of my teaching partners from my very, very first school that I worked at. And she knew that I was working remotely, but she was like, hey, I know that you working remotely and everything, but my school is looking for a music teacher. And I was like, you know what? If I were to go back into teaching, why not go into music? Because I love music. And if you also watch the other content on my page, I'm a whole artist. So I was like, and the reason why I was even thinking about leaving the remote job is because Even though they paid well, they weren't paying as much as teaching. Even though it was sustainable, I ain't gonna hold you up. But the main reason why I left my remote job was because they owed me money. And one thing I do not play by my money. They owe me money because my contract said I was going to get a sign on bonus for like $1,500. And I kept emailing them because they said it's going to come after like 60 days of employment. Never came. And on top of that, they were asking us to take on more work as the role went by. A fun fact: I was actually the very first hire at that job to be cross trained in different departments, but they were kind of like unifying all departments into one unified contact center. Of course, without any increase in pay, and of course, while you owe me money, I ain't doing no other job. I ain't even gonna do my job. So, yeah, that became a huge thing. And that really, resulted in me wanting to leave the remote job, just that remote job, not remote work in general. So I applied for the music teacher position. And of course, I got a phone call back per my resume because I had teaching experience. And I interviewed with the principal and the coach, and I got the job. Um, Except when I went in for the music teacher role, they actually was like, "Hey, your resume says that you've done elementary math. Would you be interested in coming here?" I said I was not supposed to be talking about doing academics again, but I guess so. Like if I were to go back to teaching, I would go back to a subject that I'm very good at and I actually love. If you don't know, math is my favorite subject. So I was like, all right, well, yeah, why not? And the offer, the number they gave me, it was too big to turn down. So my lease was coming to be up at the apartment that I was at anyway, and I that gave me a chance to, gather my bearings before the school year started and move to a closer. Because I also said if I was going to go back to teaching and have to start commuting again, I was going to live closer to my job. So I ended up moving to this apartment, which is 10 minutes away from the school that I got hired at, and we were doing this thing called Summer Summit. I don't know if other teachers have a different word for the actual thing. It's actually like a preparation or professional development for the teachers. So we're onboarding you basically, kind of giving you the curriculum, kind of giving you what the district's about, our laws, and what we go by, and all that kind of jazz. So I went through all of that, and I had to leave my remote job, and it was going well. Like from what I was gathering, my coach was a young coach, so she was really bent on bending to the style of the teacher, which I never had done before. I was like, "Whoa, you're really asking me how I teach? You're respecting my flow of work." And basically it was like two options. Are you a paper and pencil kind of teacher, or are you like a PowerPoint teacher? And me, I'm PowerPoint. So I was like, yeah, everything is digital. Everything we're going to be doing classroom work online. We're going to be doing, because I taught during the pandemic, so we learned about Cami, we learned about Google Classroom, all these virtual tools that we really didn't have to give up because we were back in person. So I was like, yeah, I am a digital teacher. So that is the workflow we went into. And shout out to my coach, man. Like I learned so much. I had two coaches. Matter of fact, I had a content coach and a strategy coach. The content coach was the person who I was meeting with every week, or not every week, but every like 2 weeks, who was really teaching me about the content I was teaching, and like showing me different avenues on how to teach it because she taught it so many years. And I was teaching Eureka Math. So if you know that curriculum, that's the curriculum I was using. So she was more so guiding me on how to navigate the curriculum and use it as a guide versus using it as a script, because you're the teacher, right? And the strategy coach was like teaching me how to teach, like a better way to deliver what you're saying, because you can know all the content, but if you don't know how to relay it to kids, then what is the actual benefit of teaching then, right? So I had those two bomb coaches this year, and my principal was more so. She came in, she was a master teacher, and she was an older, middle-aged woman. I would have said probably in her 50s. So she had experience with the old way of doing things, but also the new way. And the one thing I respected about her was that she was really like, do what makes sense. Like take what your coaches are saying, but also take what you're saying and trust in yourself and your ability to do what you know how to do and work it to your, bend it to your will. You're the master, you're the professional. And she would come in and see what's, been going on. And she would be like, does that make sense though? And I'd be like, nah. And, she challenged me to think. And I really do appreciate, and mind you, I'm starting off with all the great things first because when I get into it, I'm getting into it. But yes, so shout out to my coaches. Shout out to my principal. I had a a great year as far as the teaching. Like I really had fun teaching. I made TikTok videos of me in the classroom. I was like doing all these field experiments. I actually saw growth in my kids this year with the math. We had behavior problems that they out the ass. I ain't gonna hold you up, but the teaching was the fun part. I got to really get into my bag with PowerPoints. I learned how to, use Google Drive and do all these different things that I just didn't know how to do in my 5 prior years of teaching. I didn't know how to do it. Or I think it's 5 or 6, one of the two. And it was just, I was learning so much from that trio of people who I just mentioned. Those were like my trio of people who I went to for information and academic concerns. And I felt valued in a way, you know. My coaches really told me how they were worried, they weren't too worried about me to the point where I was on their radar, but they was like, we understand that you took a year off from teaching, so we're here to kind of get you back into the flow of things. My kids, they loved me. I loved them too. I ain't gonna hold you up. My kids got a little annoying towards as the school year went on because they wanted hugs all day, and I'm a person at the end of the day, and I'm not really a hugger in general, but I know that teaching urban schools, our kids come from different circumstances that don't really allow them to be emotionally fulfilled. So I was willing to be that person. But unfortunately, on May 15th, 2024, which was the day after my 29th birthday, my birthday's May 14th, I was terminated from my position. And I also made a TikTok video on this. I'll put that in the description. It went pretty viral, almost 100,000 views on TikTok. And people are not happy about that. People online and people who know me in real life. I wasn't happy about it because I thought it was ridiculous. And real quick, my cat wants to say hello. Say hello, Tequila. Say hello to the people. Say hey. Say hey. Every time I'm filming, she loves to come intrude in some kind of way. So it would not be a video of mine if Tequila did interrupt. So yeah, I got terminated, and here's the reason why. On May 10th, um, there was a complaint about me for unprofessional conduct in the classroom, and it was absurd, honestly. Um, and the complaint was from a student. It was actually from the student's parent, but the student was the one that told the parent, which of course allowed her to complain. The student said that I threw a marker at her, and she felt offended because she felt like I threw a marker at her intentionally, and that's just not what happened. And just to kind of give you all context, I'm going to give you a clip of my TikTok video demonstrating what went down. So watch this clip. Because I'm a teacher, I want to show y'all and demonstrate what happened. So all school year, might I add, we've been doing this practice, and this practice only happens when I see a few students who are not paying attention, who are talking, or whatever the case may be. If I'm teaching and you're not paying attention, this is my practice. I will take a marker. I will not throw it. I will toss it at the desk, and what typically is the response is the student says, oh, that was Mr. Walls, he's talking, let me get up, and the class goes, ha ha, we all laugh, and the student would typically grab the marker and walk it back up to me. The marker is never going to be thrown at a student nor tossed in the student's direction. It's going to be always tossed in the direction of the desk, so it's hitting the desk. Now again, I'm open for anyone saying that was unprofessional, because if it was, it was. Cool, I'll take that L, because I'm not really worried about that anyway. So yeah, my main thing is I'm I'm not really here to debate whether it was wrong or unprofessional because obviously I was terminated, so obviously it was unprofessional. I'm a person of accountability. I'm not really here to argue that. I am here to argue, did it have to be exaggerated to the point that it did? And I guess my argument comes from, we already are in a teacher shortage. There were already so many biases against me. Parents have been coming at my head all school year long. Before I even started at the school, they were coming at me because I'm a social media personality. A lot of my content is about adult related topics, nothing like XXX, but more so like I'm talking about adult topics. And within the first week of me working at the school, my kids found my TikTok. So they were all over it. They went and told their parents, my teacher's famous, he's a celebrity, and I'm not. But you know, when they see a person who's in their classroom who has 28,000 followers, to them it's giving celebrity. So parents either loved me or hated me. And some didn't like me. They felt like I was doing too much online. They felt like that I didn't belong in the classroom. They felt like my sexuality was not to be around their child. I mean, it was so many things, which I feel like is so irrelevant to when I'm teaching your child. I am a damn good teacher, and I've been told that from several people who are successful, several colleges that are successful. If you don't know, I was highlighted back in the pandemic from Central Michigan University as a rock star teacher because they did a surprise audit randomly and was like, who is this teacher? He's like really doing a great job doing a virtual lesson. So I had to do an interview. Well, not had to, but I was offered to do an interview with Central Michigan University. It's on their website right now if you want to go check it out. And it was just basically me saying what led to me being a professional. So that's what happened. I got terminated. Actually, what happened on May 10th after work, I was called by my HR department. They said, hey, don't show up to work on Monday. We're going to do a pending investigation for unprofessional conduct. And I was like, all right. And part of me already knew that meant I was going to get terminated because it's already been so many biases and so many things working against me, no matter how good I was. And that's the argument that pretty much everyone is coming at. My coworkers, the people in the comments on TikTok, they're like, I've seen worse. They're like, my teacher threw a chair at me. My teacher threw a desk at me. Mind you, I don't condone throwing anything at a child, but I did not throw anything at a child. I tossed a marker in the direction of the child to get their attention because unfortunately, throughout the school year, we were having some major behavior problems. So bad that I reached out for help several times and I was told basically like, you have to handle that. You have to work through all the behaviors. And I'm like, but you gotta understand. It's not like when we were in school where we had like 2 or 3 only causing disruptions. It's like then with the whole class. What do? I can't teach and work through all the bad behaviors as well. We only have so much time together. I have to do like a teacher model. I have to do guided practice. I have to let them have independent practice. Because all this stuff is going to tell if they're going to be successful in the lesson. Not to mention the exit ticket. So it's so much to do, and we only have 2 hours for math. Not even that, because we cropped out 30 minutes for science. So really an hour and a half, if that. More so is giving. No, I'm sorry. That's the other schedule. No, we only had 60 minutes for math. Oh my God, 60 minutes for math. Because even though we had the 30 minutes for science, we also had 20 minutes for like online math, which is what they'll do to like bridge those gaps because our kids were so behind. So but I didn't have enough time in the day and I was told to capture every behavior. I'm like, y'all don't understand if I did that. Matter of fact, I was doing that at first, but it took up too much time. There was times I didn't start teaching until 30 minutes until they walked in. And you may call that poor classroom management. I call that a good day because I've seen longer because the behavior is so bad. And we don't talk about that. We don't, because the kids are so precious and they can do no wrong. No, I'm sorry. I loved my kids, but we must talk about how the behavior was that bad. That bad. We must talk about how when I would reach out to parents, they would say, "We need your help and your support to help with the behavior." I'm like, so who do I reach out to if the parent's not going to help me? Who do I reach out to if the admin team is telling me that you're supposed to carry that and teach and make sure everything is done for the day? I don't know. And if I'm not cut out for teaching, then I'll just admit that. But I think that's pretty wild to put on one person who doesn't have a parapro, no teacher's aid, no help, just behavior problems. And we have like 3 kids who are here to really change the world, who are here to really, enhance their academic culture. But that was it. But yes, I was terminated. Luckily, I saw this coming months ago. So around January, I was applying to jobs. So, to God be the glory. On the day I got terminated, in my email, I got 2 offer letters for 2 remote positions that I'm actually going to be starting very, very soon. I just had to pick one. Of course, one pays more, but there's also pros and cons to weigh out. So that's that. So unfortunately, I was terminated, and I didn't see that coming. Honestly, I just knew that I was going to be fought for, and I was told by my coworkers who are still there, who are rooting for me, who are really like sticking it to admin, that the principal really fought for me, and I believe that because the principal had my back plenty other times. But I do think HR got so many complaints from parents because of my TikTok, because of social media, and really was just like, is he really a liability or an asset to our company? Which is fair. I'm not fighting that. It's just more so I don't think that it was fair to the kids to get rid of their teacher who only had 5 weeks left. Not to mention they not only terminated me, but they said that day, the 15th, was my last check. We got paid on the 1st and the 15th, so that day I also got paid. But that was my last paycheck, which I did not foresee coming. I just knew that even if I got terminated, that I was going to be able to get one last paycheck to sustain myself and at least have my health benefits, extend to a certain period, which I had time to figure out things. But unfortunately, everything ended that day. Everything, which made me hella depressed because even though I had 2 job offers, you still have to work a few weeks in advance to even get paid. So luckily, filing for unemployment is an option. Luckily, I have a supportive family. Luckily, all these different things that are working in my favor are working for my favor. I get paid from social media, so that's a plus. It may not be a full-time payment yet, but it's some money, additional income coming in. So again, whether my termination was right or wrong is really irrelevant. It's more so what was the best thing for the kids, because the kids, they've been writing me on TikTok. I am gonna hold you up. They have been sending me messages like, "We miss you." They put some weird sub in my classroom who they do not like, who I've been caught weird vibes from prior to me getting terminated. And yeah, this is where we're at. I pretty much decided that teaching, that was my last time going into a teaching field. That is I'm done with education at this point. Even when I escaped the first time and went back, because I love, teaching kids, nothing can trump the feeling of being terminated from a position for a reason that you feel like is really irrelevant. So irrelevant, especially when there have been so many far more worse things that have happened with other people at that school I was working at. I won't get into detail because I promised I wouldn't repeat those things, but there's been some things that have happened that I was like, and you still work here? When I told people who are at my school or they saw my video and they were like, you got fired for that? And they didn't get rid of a person who did this? Not only that, you're a great teacher. The kids adore you. It was even, I was so good, and I'm not tooting my own horn, but I'm going to make facts be known. I was so good that I was in a meeting prior to me even be getting terminated. And I found out that anchor charts were not a thing at this school. I found out the year before that anchor charts were like a phenomenon. Like if you walked into a teacher's classroom and you saw anchor charts, they were like certified. And I was like, well, I've been doing anchor charts ever since I began teaching. It was a non, again, me just doing my job was the high standard to a lot of people. And someone in the meeting was like, yeah, Mr. Walls being here, if you walk up in here and you need to learn how to do long division, learn how to add or multiply fractions, transform improper to mixed. You can do it because there's anchor charts everywhere. That was literally the decoration to my classroom. I'll show y'all a video or a photo if I have it.
Fourth grade math, finding common denominators.
I have denominators with no common multiples. What I'm going to do is this. I'm going to take 5, I'm going to take 6, and I'm going to multiply them together. And I get 30. Now, believe it or not, 30 is the LCM because I stopped at these multiples for a reason. Because the very next multiple is 30 for 5, and then for 6 is also 30. Right? But that only comes from multiplying 5 and 6 together. And from this point on, we use our same system. Once we find the LCM, determine how many skip counts it takes to get to that multiple. So for 6, it took me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 skip counts. So we're going to multiply that 6 by 5. And my magic rule is whatever I do to my bottom, I do to my top. Yep. And for 5, it took me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 skip counts. So I multiply 5 by 6, and my magic rule is whatever I do to my bottom, I do to my top. Yeah. So now I'm going to get different fractions. However, they're still equivalent fractions. So we can still use these fractions that I'm about to pull down to compare the original two. So we have 2 times 6, which gives me 12. 5 times 6, which gives me 30. Compared to 5 times 5, which gives me 25. And then my LCM is 30. Now, this is much easier. Here's the reason why. Whenever you have two fractions that have a common denominator, all you are now looking at are the numerators. And at this point, it's kindergarten math. Which one is the bigger number? Obviously, 25 is the bigger number, so this fraction will be bigger in value. Now, going back up, I'm going to re-add my whole numbers because that was the original problem. So 3 and 2/5 compared to 3 and 5/6, we said that this fraction had bigger value, so that means that this mixed number, 3 and 5/6, is the bigger number. Oh, well, thank you. But yeah, I want to make sure that my kids were able to reach success. So I gave them the tools to be successful. So I set a lot of high standards that I feel like made people do their fucking job. I don't know. I don't think it was fair to fire a teacher that the kids loved 4 or 5 weeks before school ended, especially with their last state test coming up. Fortunately, some of my kids reached out, so I did want to know how they did. And my teaching partner, shout out to her, reached out to me. She said, I don't know what you were doing in that classroom, but your NWEA scores for your kids, your homeroom, phenomenal. And one of my kids reached out, and she said, hey, Mr. Walls, I hate that. I'm getting emotional because it's. She said, hey, I'm reaching out because we did good on our NWEA scores. And not only that, we met our goal. We really learned something from you. Thank you for teaching us. And that's when I really had to take a nice good cry, because I did want to see my work come to fruition, because I worked damn hard. When I came into my classroom, my kids were getting like 20% class averages for their math exit ticket scores. To around February, March, we were gliding in the 50, 60, 70, sometimes even 80, 90% range in class average. Class average, not just class average. So to see that growth and then not be able to see the benefits reaped really hurt me. It really did hurt me. I feel like my HR department was not fair with their termination, but I also do realize that everything happens for a reason. Um, I do realize that with me being on social media and having such a dynamic following and personality, that could have been a factor as well. Especially when I got terminated, the teacher who went viral for letting kids braid their hair was a thing. So I mean, social media and teachers are not always a great pair up. So I understood. There are things that I have to do in my lifetime, in my what I'm doing in my life, that are not good for the classroom or that are not good for the education system, and I'm learning that. So I've learned from this, and all I can do is grow. So that's my story. I'm no longer an educator for real this time, even though I said it a few times in my previous other videos. But this is the official me signing off as a educator. I wish it was different, but everything happens for a reason. Again, my name is PJ Eugene. We're here to learn, grow, heal, and maybe all at the same goddamn time. I hope you learned something from the video, and I'll see you on the next time.